Well, hello and welcome everyone to the Bottom Line Me podcast. I'm Ann Allard, and I'm happy again to have my co-host Brenda Nelson here with me again today. Hey, Brenda, how are you?
Hi, Ann. I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. I'm very well, thank you. Thank you so much. So I know one of the reasons that you're not always available to join me on our podcast is that you spend a lot of time teaching classes out in the field on a variety of different subjects that are relevant to people in our industry. And I do know that fall is a time that has been designated by the National Association of Realtors as Realtor Safety Month. And I know this topic you teach
Yes.
it to realtors, but I don't think it's just realtors who could benefit from what you're sharing when you actually teach these classes, because there's an awful lot of other professionals in our industry, like title agents, loan officers, closers, and everyone who go out and meet customers or clients, sometimes outside of their office and oftentimes during off hours. So I was thinking everyone could benefit from some of the things that you teach in this course. Anyway, I thought it would be a great topic for us today.
It's a great topic.
Great. Well, before we dive into the details, I know that the National Association of Realtors often gathers statistics on personal safety. Brenda, do you have
Mhm.
any data on that you could share with our audience?
Yes, they do. Every year they put out a new survey, and
Hmm.
it's really interesting. Apart from that, U.S. Department of Labor considers real estate sales and leasing a high risk, hazardous occupation, which I found surprising. But
Wow.
if you think about it, meeting strangers in an empty house or another location, it makes sense. But the safety survey that NAR has done reveals key findings. They have down that 45,000 realtors were victims of a crime,
Oh my
and there's
goodness.
many more that felt fear for their safety while they were on the job. And unfortunately, many don't have any safety protocols in place. So you don't have any safety protocols in place for your safety. And that's what NAR and all the state associations, the local or state associations, they are trying to change that.
Wow. Wow, those numbers are quite staggering. I
Hmm.
had no
They are.
idea. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So let's dive in and talk about it. What are some of the most common safety concerns or risks that real estate professionals face in their day-to-day work?
Realtors most often feel unsafe, and there's some common situations that cause concern.
Hmm.
And not surprisingly, you've got people that become angry and they lash out or they act out, and they send a threatening or inappropriate email or a text message or a phone call. And that makes the realtor or the real estate professional feel unsafe. Also, during a showing with a client,
Hmm.
meeting with a client for the first time at their home, going to properties that are in remote areas. Open houses is very common. And then closings after hour. You talked about it's not just realtors, it's also real estate professionals like closers.
Right.
And a lot of closers go out after hours or away from the office. And
Hmm.
that also creates a situation where there's some concern for safety.
Well, and it even makes me think about a salesperson that's going into an
Mhm.
office where they're unfamiliar with perhaps anyone in the office or even the
Right.
landscape around there. That some of the things that you teach in these classes could be very useful and helpful to
Yes.
all people who are out meeting the general public. So can you
Yes.
share some of those strategies or best practices for personal safety that you've shared during your classes?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. One of the most important one I feel is to create those safety protocols and put them in place. And the thing is that they need to always remember to follow them. So like, it becomes second nature. So when you're meeting a client for the first time, explain that, hopefully it's company policy, but I think you can use that phrase and say it's company policy that it requires you and I to meet for the first time in the office. And when you meet that person, also tell them that you're going to need some information from them in order to verify their identity, like through a driver's license.
Right.
So, to me, a legitimate client is not going to refuse to provide that information.
Geez, I think that's a really great idea, though, to say that, or to put in place a practice that the first meeting has to be in a location that everybody, that is public. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a professional. It's you come and meet me at my office. You can see my team. You can see who I work with on a regular basis. But there's also smartphone safety apps, and there's one that you can do a basic background check. So you have the person come into your office and you meet with them for a few minutes and you pull the driver's license and you can use the app to run a very quick background check. It's going to give you, their driver's or their license plates. It's going to give you a criminal background, and it only takes just a few minutes. One of those apps is called Forewarn for Real Estate. One of the other safety protocols, but it's not always practical, is to bring someone with you if you're fearful. So when you're doing an open house, you can bring someone with you, or if you're going to show property, you can also bring someone with you. So those just a couple of best practices when it comes to safety.
Yeah, and I would think that could easily be considered, even if you're a closer and you're going out to someone's home, that it's probably a good idea to take somebody else along with you. When it's possible, when it's realistic. But
right.
So what about situational awareness? How does that play a role in this, or how can people improve their own situational awareness?
Well, it plays a huge role. It really does. You need to be aware of your surroundings and be observant of any potential threats. And I think sometimes we don't scan our environment. We don't look around and make sure that everything looks right. I think sometimes we don't ask the question, what's the norm for this current location? Yeah. So you're used to being at your office, or you're used to being somewhere else. But in reality, what's normal for one area is not going to be normal for another. So if you are downtown versus you're in a small community, a rural community, or just a suburb, it's going to be different than if you're downtown. So just be aware. Don't be complacent. Always look around. Always be aware. Other thing is that we get a gut feeling, and then we tend to ignore it. We kind of brush it aside and we tell ourselves, nothing's going to happen. Everything's going to be fine. But really, they cannot ignore it. They shouldn't ignore it.
Right.
Ask yourself why you're feeling uneasy. We need to stay away from tunnel vision also. It's really tricky to think about it because you want the sale, or you want the listing, or you want that. That's what your job is. But you need to make sure that that's not the only focus. You need to not just say, I want that, and get that tunnel vision. So it's really important to make sure that you scan your environment, that you don't become complacent, and that you don't get tunnel vision.
Yeah, I think complacency or distraction is one of the other things. I heard a great quote the other day, and it went something like, "Be where your feet are planted." And so, it's so easy for us to be distracted and then just miss some of these things that are around us. Like if I'm on my phone or checking, an email, or just doing something that's distracting, and I'm not scanning what's going on around me. I think that was a great little quote, and it's one that I'm going to keep in mind in lots of situations.
Well, think about it when you've got you're walking down the street and you're looking at your cell phone, how many times you almost run into somebody. I mean, that could be the person that's dangerous to you. And so it's very true that you need to be aware and scanning the environment.
Right. So to talk a little bit more about, your suggestion of taking someone with you when you can, let's say that that's just not an option. Are there some key communication protocols that you would recommend or suggest people aspire to?
Well, communication is key. You need to let someone know where you're going. You need to let them know the exact address, and you need to make sure they know who you're with and they need to know that person's cell phone number. So not your cell phone number, but the person that you're with, and make
Oh,
sure that you make arrangements after that visit, when you're going to show a house or go to an open house or what have you, make arrangements to call after the appointment's over, after the open house ends. Make sure to call someone so that they're aware that, you're safe, everything went well. Also, make sure your cell phone, this is common sense, but you have to say it, make sure that your cell phone is fully charged.
oh, geez, it's happened to all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, as far as communication goes, is a lot of things that I've read, and one of the keys that I talk about is have a code or a keyword or key phrase, so that when you feel like you're threatened or you feel like you're unsafe, go ahead and call someone and alert them to the danger or that you feel fearful, and use that word or phrase. So an example would be, I'm calling about the blue folder that's on my desk. The person would know that blue was your code word or blue folder was your phrase. So always stay in contact, but also think about things you can put into place that would alert someone to danger that you feel.
Awesome. Are there any other tools or technologies that you recommend, or that you've used that would help enhance someone's safety?
Well, the one I've mentioned before, the freeform, that one is real good. There are so many people moving around the country right now that you don't get referrals from people that you know. You really do have strangers coming into your office, people that you've never met before. So again, asking and receiving of ID should be required. That just across the board. You can use an app like Safe Showing, where the agent stores the prospect's ID before showing they can activate a distress alert. You could also go so far as using the one I mentioned, Freeform, where you actually do a background check, just a real quick background check to see who it is that you're going to be meeting with. One that I thought was really neat was Agent SafeWalk. And that is where an agent's never going to feel alone. A closer's never going to feel alone when they're at an appointment, because what they do is they virtually introduce the person to their safety partner. And so that person is on the screen in real time live, and an agent can upload the client's ID to that app as well. But it's where they aren't going to feel alone, and the person that they're with will know, oh, there's someone else watching. There's someone else observing and hearing what we're talking about. So these are just a few things that you can put into play.
Yeah, that sounds. What was the name of that again? That sounds like
that was called Agent SafeWalk.
Wow, great, good. Well, any final thoughts before you bottom line us on this one?
No, I will just bottom line you. The bottom line to me is that real estate professionals in reality do feel fearful at times with new clients in certain situations. And there's a lot of awareness now on safety and education regarding that. There's classes to be taken to teach you to be more aware of your surroundings. There is also classes on self-defense. So you can take those as well. But it's really great to see the progression from when I got into real estate, over the years, going from little opportunity for protection other than self-defense, that type of thing, to having all these options to protect yourself in the field. So I think bottom line would be definitely look into the things that are available to you, take classes, and definitely implement safety procedures at the very beginning. Get used to doing those on a regular basis so they become a habit.
Great. Well, Brenda, thanks so much. This was really informative, and I think our audience will appreciate all the ideas and the suggestions that you've made here. So
you're welcome.
Yeah. To our audience, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time. And until we meet again, may you continue to learn, grow, and prosper. And as the actor in the old series Hill Street Blues used to say, let's be careful out there, folks.
I love it.
Okay. Thanks, Brenda.
Thank you.